Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Our topic this round is common business cybersecurity mistakes, things that we often see not done correctly or misconception on. And so today we're going to be going over that. Our goal is just to kind of help educate business owners on best practice for IT, let them know, in very non-technical ways. We're just trying to help you know what should be done, what shouldn't be done. Doesn't matter if you have outsourced IT, internal IT. We're just here to help you. Today I have Joe joining us. Joe, you mind just giving a quick kind of introduction about you and your company?
Yeah, sure. We're located and headquartered out of Tucson, Arizona. So we take care of, a lot of the Southwest region, Southern Arizona. Been doing MSP this is about our 5th year now, but I have over 30 years experience in the IT world, so we started off as break fix and then managed our way through and decided, hey, let's have this managed services end of our business to help local businesses. And that was kind of the tough thing, right? Making that determination from going from the consumer that would walk in with their laptop that was broken to just managing business IT. So yeah, we've done really well in the area. We do a lot of dental, a lot of accounting, a lot of architecture and engineering, construction companies. So we're excited to help the area and help people with their IT.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Well, on our topic today with security, the way that we typically look at security is a multi-layered approach. A lot of IT companies seem to just say, okay, let's put a firewall in, give you some type of antivirus, you're good.
Right.
Those are like two of the possible, probably 15, different layers that you could have. Not that
Right.
everyone needs that many layers, but there are standards, like for us and probably you as well, since we're, both part of the
Sure.
20. We've agreed that security is multi-layered. You need at least a minimum of security in place. And the way I kind of explain it a lot of times is, think about your house. You never want to rely just on that every person trying to rob you is only going to go to that front door.
Yeah.
You know, um, if you really want to have security, you don't rely on one item, because not one item is going to protect 100%. So on a house, you might have a security fence. If they get past that, maybe they try the front door, the back door, the garage door, make sure there's deadbolts there. If they get through that, maybe you have an alarm system, and then maybe a guard dog, or someone else there, I don't know, holding a shotgun, a policeman, or you could
Yeah.
go so many different possible layers
Yeah.
there. Guardsmen, whatever. But what you're doing is not relying on one item alone. You have this different layered approach, and if it gets past one, hopefully along the way, that threat is caught and blocked.
Right. And I think one of the common things that we run into when we onboard a new client is that we see one or two of those things, right? We see just a firewall only, and they think that that's the only protection that they need, or we only see just antivirus. And then typically that antivirus is out of date or unlicensed or the free
Hmm.
version. So
Right.
we never see the combo of the two. It's rare. So, but it's one of those things that always, it's the first thing that scares you when you go in, right? We don't want to scare the client,
Absolutely.
but it's the first thing that's on our minds that
We need
makes
to
us
educate them.
nervous. Yeah, makes us nervous, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's the one thing that we want to get off of our plate, right? As we onboard somebody, we want to make sure that the security and the layered security approach is one of the first things that we knock out. And again, the client doesn't have to get too detailed about exactly how, but they just need to know they're protected, and protected than they were, better than they were before. I mean, that's really that's our goal when we go in, because I want to be able to sleep at night. I mean, and I want my
Yeah.
clients to be able to sleep at night. I don't want to wake up, in the middle of the night thinking, wait, do I have to look at everything, make sure nothing happened overnight? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's typically what we see. We see one or the other, but we never hardly ever see a combination of the two. So
Yeah. Well, one thing too that I've seen this be the case a lot, and different cybersecurity groups have agreed with me on, is that your typical tech is horrible at security.
Yeah.
If you think of a typical tech's mind, they are seeing request or problem or something, and then I just fix it. And so I've seen before where someone had someone installed an application on their computer,
Right.
and the antivirus was blocking it, and they called into the tech and just said, this application that I want to use is being blocked. Please whitelist it, allow it through. And the tech went and just, whitelisted it. But you have to, have the right techs on your team trained, or have a cybersecurity group, a SOC, that has security mindset
Right.
of, okay, I'm going to see this request, but I'm going to look into it. Why is that application being blocked? Is it maybe there is a threat there? Maybe it's being blocked, correctly. It should be blocked. And then working with them and, figuring that out, because in the case, the story that I'm talking about, it was a threat.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a similar story. I mean, so, and this goes along the whole lines of security posture within a local business or a company that we will onboard. But recently we came across uh, the client was really concerned that their previous IT was saying that they needed a brand new firewall. It has to be replaced. This is the reason why these reports aren't running at night, is because of the firewall.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we really looked into it, it turned out that it was the antivirus that was blocking that was blocking the report from running, and it had run prior to, and it was working up until a certain point where they had built a new machine, but forgot to put the exceptions or the exclusions on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought, no, we have to change that all out. The reason why it's not working anymore is you got to buy a brand new firewall, and it's not inexpensive to put in a new firewall.
Yeah.
So that was their major concern, and you're right. Look into why is this not running anymore? Is it the antivirus? Is it the firewall? Is it security? Or is it just the application just broken? So
Right.
so
Or
that
is it
those are
being
those things.
blocked in the way it
Right.
should be?
Yeah. And so, that was like the first pain point that we went in and fixed for the client, was these reports that used to run on a monthly basis automatically, and then they all of a sudden stopped. And the previous IT was saying, well, it's because your firewall, and it wasn't. So we go in there, we make sure we do all the due diligence, right? Make sure that it isn't the
Absolutely.
firewall, make sure that it's not the application, make sure it's not the antivirus that's causing that issue. So yeah, you make a very valid point. It's these things that we are consumed with, just day-to-day work orders, right? Print issues, desktop issues, and things like that. And sometimes it's easy for us to take our eye off the ball when it comes to security. But that's probably, I would say, in the last 3 years of doing managed services, it's probably become our most focused point. The desktop stuff, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's Windows 10, right? Or it's Mac OS, and you just know what to fix and why it's causing issues. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the cybersecurity end of things, I think we start to put more of a focus on it than we used to 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah. And
it
it's
used
always
to be a
evolving and
mumble, right?
changing.
Yeah, it just used to be a mumble, but now it's loud roar with all the things that have happened, in
Right.
the news, from ransomware attacks. And I always look at it this way, right? Those home users that are having these ransomware attacks, right? That click on the shiny objects and things,
Mm-hmm.
are the same people that go and work in the workforce. So educating them, at the workforce, will also help educate folks at home, what not to click on and things. So we
Right.
kind of look at it as being advocates for cybersecurity, because those same people go home and have the same operating systems at their house and same challenges. So it's good to educate them,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, yeah, and overall, just having that security mindset
yeah,
whenever you're working on something, and just knowing, you don't have to even be a pro at security, but
right,
know security best practice
right. Yeah, I
can
think I
really
think
go a
as
long way.
yeah, and I think that we all always think that there's these two different users, right? The workforce
Mhm.
user and then the home user. They're the same people. they just
Right, right.
they're just working in different places. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and that brings up another great point, right? So you were talking about firewalls earlier, and the last two clients that we onboarded, there was two different issues regarding firewalls, right? The first one, we'll talk about this. They had firewall hardware as a service that they didn't know about, right?
Hmm.
So they were basically leasing the firewall from their previous IT, and so they came and ripped it out, right? So They didn't give
Hmm.
any configurations, so we had to build everything from scratch. And sometimes
Oh,
that's
right.
okay. That's one of those things, right? Um, rebuilding somebody's network from scratch when it comes to the firewall side of things is beneficial to us because we know why were
Yeah,
things
yeah.
open, why were things set up the way they were, and it gives us
Make
a
sure
good
it's done
chance,
correctly.
right? It gives us a good chance to
Sometimes
change
it's
things. Yeah,
Yeah, sometimes it's even easier to start from scratch and get the game plan and then create the firewall rules. Some of those firewall rules, when the firewall just exists and you go evaluate it, sometimes they're so complex that
right,
it's a lot more work
right,
to go through and evaluate all of it.
right.
But firewall is another great item. We see where a firewall port is open on a firewall.
Yeah.
That's just like having that perimeter fence around your house, but having a 20-foot section just removed. You know,
And nobody has
not
the
that.
answer as to why, right? As to why that's open. No,
Yeah.
you
Well,
could ask 10 people and they're all going to say,
yeah,
I
yeah.
have no idea why
But
that's open, right?
yeah, if you find it, of course, most of the time you just want to close that. Is it even
Right,
needed? If
right,
it is needed, okay, well then take anything that would funnel down that route through that fence and isolate it.
right,
So then it can't get to the house. For
right.
example.
Yeah, and we see that a lot with other vendors like camera systems, other folks that
Hmm.
might be monitoring their security, things like that. We see that a lot. And so,
Cameras and on-premise phone
right,
systems.
any sort of,
Yeah.
yeah, thing, like even printers, one of the things, because in
Mm.
order to get their count or whatever for these managed printers that the client might be leasing, they need to be able to send out, these printers
Hmm.
need to be able to send out those counts. So yeah, we sit down and we audit. We'll go through the entire firewall and just kind of audit,
Right.
you know just so that we get, one, education on what the client's trying to do, and then two, start to raise the red flags of why is this open, why is that, why is it this way. And a lot of times, like I said, nobody has an answer for for us. I don't
Hmm.
know if you've ever run into that. So yeah, just close
Oh
it
yeah.
down, and then wait till somebody screams and says, hey, this isn't working anymore. But a lot of it has to do with, hey, let's tighten it first and then gently open it back up to whoever needs access to it. And that's a challenge, right? I mean,
Yeah. And well,
look,
and
there's some
communicating
growing
with the
pains, right? Yeah,
customer.
exactly. It's that growing pains
Yeah.
with the client, because they say, well, these guys know what they're doing. It's like, no, we know exactly what we're doing. We're protecting you. One, two, we want to make sure that we have answers as to why these things are open or why they need to be open, and can we tighten them up a little bit. So
Yeah, and a lot of times it's just having a conversation with the customer. Hey, we
yeah,
found this big security problem. Let's talk about it. I
right,
want you to know why we're trying to address this
sure,
because of what could happen. And then, yeah, let's, agree on the approach to take. Should we, do you know why this firewall port is open? Do you have any documentation on it? No. Can we
yeah,
figure it out? No. Okay.
right,
Let's, what we suggest then in this case might be to just close it and then we'll watch the logs on the firewall, see if we can
right,
figure out what it is and then quickly fix it.
right.
But then it will prevent all of these problems, attacks or threats coming through.
Yeah, and that
Um,
happened with a VoIP vendor, a voice over IP vendor that needed to be able to manage the on-prem voice box that they had.
mhm.
And I shut everything down when we wiped out this configuration. It was like, just shut it down. We'll wait to see who calls. And after talking to the vendor, we were able to come up with a different solution to get them into the system without having to open up the firewall. So
Right.
yeah, I mean,
Sometimes
it's
that's just like the
right.
easier way, but it's not the
Yeah,
best way.
right. And they always say, yeah, well, most of our clients let us in this way, and it's like, well, that's more secure than me opening up a bunch of ports on the firewall for you to gain access. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah. And then email is another big item. I think I don't remember the exact statistic, but it was about 90% of all ransomware comes through email.
sure,
And so that's not even necessarily doing anything with the firewall. Um, and yeah, maybe it's those layers again. You
right,
need the email security filtering that's evaluating, all those emails and scanning and all that. But even if it makes it through that, arrives in the inbox, are the people trained to easily identify or
sure,
question, an email? Does it look? Do I know who it's coming from? Does it look suspicious? But then if they even click on it, then you have the right antivirus or
sure,
anti-malware that can then also. So then right there is an example of three different, layers.
sure,
And then you also have like website filtering to try and block malicious websites. So
Right.
if they do click on that link, it's being blocked before you even get to it, before antivirus even needs to block something.
Right.
So there's, I mean, there's 4 layers right there.
Yeah, and I actually had that happen. So our clients are highly trained in once if it gets past the filter, right? Because it's never
Hmm.
never perfect. But if it gets past the filter and they still think it's questionable, forward it to me so I could put my eyes on it and say, delete it, don't
And
open.
not
No,
to
it's
other
legit,
people in the
right?
company.
Yeah, not to other people in the
Yeah.
company, and they're
Yeah.
really well trained at that, and they feel comfortable doing that with us because we have that relationship with them to hey, look, I'm not going to scold you if you forward
Hmm.
it to me because I want to look at
Right.
it.
We just
I
want to
scold
help.
you if you don't, right?
Right.
so so it's one of those things that that happens, and we did have that happen recently. Came from a person that they knew. It was looked totally legit, but as soon as they clicked on it, it took them to the next layer of security, right? Which is the DNS filtering
Hmm.
or the website filtering, and it immediately and he says, "Man, as soon as I clicked on it, it wouldn't even let me get that far so to put my credentials in because it asked for his
Yeah.
credentials and he's like thank god we had that so it does happen. I mean again, these multi-layered approaches to security is what it's never going to be security, never going to be able the only way you're going to secure something right is to unplug the ethernet cord for
Hmm.
it, put in the safe,
Yeah.
lock the safe, forget the combination. That's going to be the only way to secure
Right.
things in the future. But yeah, it's absolutely critical when it even comes to things like email, so
Yeah. It's
we
a
see it.
cat and
We
mouse
see it a lot.
game
Yeah.
of, yeah, the hackers always trying to get around the security, and security
Yeah.
people trying to, be proactive or block it after the fact. And it's always going to be changing. A lot of it on security comes down to, the staff is your last line of
Sure.
defense.
Yeah.
And how well have they been trained? And so what we started implementing for all of our customers is including, at bare minimum, annual phishing tests and education.
Yep.
And if they need more often than that, like compliance or HIPAA, they can get it more.
Right.
But at a minimum, we started including that annual training. Having insight into how well your staff is trained, is a big item.
Yeah. And you also brought up another topic, going along back with the firewalls is the compliancy side of things. And you'll find a lot of people that are taking credit cards, right?
Hmm.
or they're a medical facility or dental facility and a lot of times that they don't understand that not having a firewall is already the first breach, right? One of the
Right.
first negligences on their side for those things. So, um, yeah, we see that a lot. We'll go into a place that's taking credit cards and be like, no, no, we
Right.
got to get a firewall in here. We got to make sure those things are done. So,
And
but
that's up to us to kind of know, most common, I think, like you said, PCI and HIPAA probably,
right,
and
yeah,
just knowing how those requirements are laid out, and
sure.
then talking to the customer and educating
Talking
them.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and even forwarding emails, encrypting emails. And that's the other point I was going to bring back up with the email is the encryption part. If you're sending sensitive information, make sure you're encrypting it. Make sure you're using something well known, whether it's the Microsoft 365 encryption or if you're using Proofpoint or another encryption. But make sure that you are taking care of those things because you know you don't want your email to fall into the wrong hands. It's very easy to mistype an email address, right?
Mhm.
And innocently think that you sent it to somebody that is supposed to have this information and you didn't encrypt it and it went to somewhere it wasn't supposed to. So um, yeah, I mean, those are other security issues. I mean, we always have clients say, hey, can you email me my password?
No.
No. So it's one of those things that we stay away from as well because that's I mean it's like why would I send you your password in an email? So
Right.
we'll find out another way to get it to you, but you won't get it like this through an email. So
Yep. Very good.
yeah,
All right. Well, yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Joe, for joining us on this. I think it was some great items that we've covered, and yeah, it's like I said, just good information.
yeah, thank you.
Um, yeah, I do. I'm gonna, in closing out, I'm gonna offer to everybody an ebook that we have available. These are just a collection of very common items when we have started onboarding new clients of security issues that we find that are not done correctly or not in place. And so it's a good reference tool that you can use to even, or a guide you can read through and give you talking points with whoever your IT currently is, outsourced or internal, but something that you guys can just go through together and make sure things are done, again, security best
Yeah.
practice. Yeah, but yeah, thanks again, Joe, and love to have you back.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, take
All
care,
right. Bye.
everybody. Be safe.